is one of several focused on categorizing different philosophical theories based on the three elements of morality. In particular, we're going to look at act-centered theories. My name is Gene Rice. I teach philosophy at Fort Hays State. To begin, let's remind ourselves where ethical theory fits into the larger study of ethics. Ethics we defined as the study or the science of freely chosen human conduct, and under that there was a distinction between philosophical and descriptive, where descriptive is simply attempting to describe or document existing ethical practice, whereas the philosophical is asking the different question whether we ought to believe as we do or behave as we do currently. So underneath philosophical, then, there was substantive ethics and metaethics, and under substantive ethics, ethical theory and applied ethics. And we're going to be looking more closely at some different ways of categorizing ethical theory, and then looking in particular at a certain type of ethical theory that focuses on the act. There are many and varied philosophical theories of ethics. One way to get a handle on them is to categorize them according to the three elements of morality, where the first component would be focusing on the agents, the second component would be focusing more on the actions or the acts themselves, and the third alternative would be to focus primarily on the consequences or the likely consequences of any particular action. This presentation will focus on act-centered theories, and we'll take a look a little bit at the motivation behind it and then some common examples. Act-centered theories of ethics comprise a wide range of different approaches, but what they share in common is a focus on action. That is, they're less concerned about who's doing the action, what possible virtues or vices those agents have, and also they are not interested so much in the outcome or the consequences of the action, in part because a lot of times we don't know or we can't control those consequences. So act-centered theories tend to categorize actions as moral, immoral, or amoral, that is, having no moral content at all. And many of the theories will claim that certain actions are just immoral by their very nature, not by who's doing them or what the circumstances are. The actions are just plain wrong. One good reason that philosophers have focused on actions as the center of their ethical approach is because when we look at our moral experience, it does seem like some actions are just wrong, or just immoral, evil, so on. Rape, child abuse, murder, possibly torture. These are actions where it doesn't seem to matter who's doing them, what the immediate or long-term consequences are. We don't really even need to consider those. It seems that these actions are just wrong by their nature, by the very fact that someone is performing them. They have acted immorally. So again, this is one good reason why people have chosen to focus on the action rather than the consequences or the agents. Let's take a look then at some examples of action-focused philosophical theories of ethics. Many of these are ones that you will look at in more detail as the class progresses. Immanuel Kant is a very famous philosopher. Social contract theory is also a fairly well-known theory. One of the oldest action-centered theories of ethics is known as natural law. At the top there, you see also the word duty or deontic. Deontic is just another word for duty. What these approaches share, besides being focused on action, is often that they approach ethics as a matter of duty or responsibility, that we ought to refrain from certain actions because it's our duty to, or to perform them because it's our duty, not because we want to do them necessarily. Natural law theory is one of the oldest act-based theories. It claims that there is an inherent ethical framework to the cosmos, and that actions should always accord with that ethical framework. Immoral actions on this view are those which violate the natural order. So, for example, a natural law theorist might say that murder is inherently wrong. We don't need to look at the consequences or who's doing it to know that, because we know that life is a part of nature, and nature sees life as good, and so murder is a violation of that natural order. And so the natural law approach has been around for a very long time and focuses, as I say, on identifying which acts accord with nature and the natural ethical order and which acts oppose that. Immanuel Kant's ethical approach has been extremely influential in philosophical theorizing about morality. Kant claimed that immoral actions are essentially irrational, that when we consider certain actions, we have to consider whether we can universalize those actions, whether everyone else could do as we are proposing to do. And if we cannot envision that, if that's not a rational state of affairs, then that action is immoral, and we are duty-bound to refrain from acting in that way. Another way of thinking about Kant's categorical imperatives is to think about his claim that we should never use people. We should never treat people merely as means to our own ends. Any action that uses people in that way is going to be immoral for Kant. The final act-based theory that we're going to preview here is social contract theory, very popular in the West. Social contract theory says that moral actions are those which we could agree to together, collectively, for our own good. So social contract theory focuses on cooperation and also on evaluating actions as to whether we could all agree to them. And those that we can agree to are fair and therefore just. Actions which we cannot agree to are immoral. So the social contract theorists would say that slavery is immoral because those proposed to be enslaved could never agree to such a thing. And so slavery is by its nature then unfair and immoral as an action.